Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Welcome to another special bonus episode of the Film Realist Podcast. I had the opportunity to watch 6 of the 8 episodes of Alien Earth, the new installment in the franchise, executive produced by Ridley Scott and created by Noah Hawley. It is amazing, and given my fandom of the Alien franchise, which has been up and down, I did do a review of Alien Romulus back when that came out with Kofi Outlaw, a friend of mine, so if you want to hear what I thought about that, check out that episode. This will be entirely spoiler-free because, of course, when you're listening to this, the show hasn't debuted yet. The premiere is released on Disney Plus and FX/Hulu August 12th, so I will not ruin anything. This is just first impressions, my general opinion, without any plot specifics. It's just how I felt while watching this show. So let's jump into my spoiler-free thoughts on the first 6 episodes of Alien Earth.
How's our girl?
She's ready.
You're gonna be the first person to transition from a human body to a synthetic.
Because I'm special.
That's right.
What's most interesting about Alien Earth is how we have a show set up within the universe, and the Alien franchise, because of the different creators involved, of course Ridley Scott has made the most projects in this, but funny enough, the initial marketing for Alien 3 was the idea that aliens were going to be on Earth, and now with the TV series debut of this franchise and Noah Hawley coming off of the back of Fargo and Legion, everything you've come to expect from him as a showrunner is present here in Alien Earth. The setup for the show is 2 years prior to the events of Alien, and all of the staples of this franchise are completely present here. You have impeccable production design, as well as a story that is just as much cerebral as it is terrifying. If this is your first time listening, the horror genre is not one typically that I'm driven to. That is because I am a scaredy cat and I get scared. But when you are telling a psychological story within the science fiction realm, dealing with these objects of morality and all of the themes that the Alien franchise has explored, specifically looking back, interestingly enough, with Prometheus and Covenant, but Noah Hawley so expertly crafts so many of the ideas of science fiction into the narrative of this show. We've seen in the trailers that the idea that Wendy is the first hybrid where you took a human's consciousness and you put it into a synthetic body, and the relationships that would create, as well as this constant need to drive for immortality. And what's so interesting, and something I like from the Alien franchise, is this idea of big tech. Of course, you have Weyland-Yutani and other companies, but we know that essentially the Earth, as well as space, has been sectioned off into border areas and countries because of these massive companies. And it's not a franchise that I know backwards and forwards. I've seen the movies. I talked about what I loved about Alien Earth, or not Alien Earth, Alien Romulus. I'm going to tell you what I loved about Alien Earth. And this idea of putting a child in the body of an adult, the psychology behind what would be the reaction to that, where you would have other adults dealing with somebody who has the capacity to learn as a child would, but also has the mentality of that in an adult. Those relationships would automatically be different. Also, given the fact that the world is separated and deals with people differently depending on if you are in fact human, alien, or a cyborg, you have a world set up for exploration, but through the avenue of business. And this show manages to do all of those things very interestingly. There's not a moment where you don't feel uncomfortable. The framework of each episode does a really good job of giving you staples of this franchise. You see a xenomorph on the poster. This is the Alien franchise, and the setting for this being Earth automatically separates it from what has been a convention of this franchise, which is typically it's a space station or the far reaches of space, or you are in some sort of confined space within a satellite, which was most recently in Alien Romulus. And what I liked about what they did in that movie was you took a conventional horror element with teens and you put them in a space that they weren't supposed to be. It's a classic slasher trope. But with Alien Earth, you are flipping that on its head because you are empathizing with somebody who has the maturity level of a child and putting them in these very mature, grandiose conversations, and everyone else is making choices for that person. What is the state of someone who is the first of their kind dealing with all of the external pressure of survival because of the threat that is the aliens being the xenomorphs? This exploration of science that blinds people in wanting to learn, but the aftermath of what happens because of that is always the repercussions of the blind companies who just want to prioritize and legalize all of this science so that it is proprietary. We have this breakthrough. It doesn't matter that we are focusing on something else. And with each single episode, you get to see flavor from the Alien franchise. And more than anything, this show is very much baked in the identity of that first 1979 film. Of course, you are going to have action as you would need to break up the straight up horror and body horror elements that we've come to expect from this IP. But more so than anything, the production design and the cinematography really does capture this otherworldly yet tangibly familiar world that the Alien film was in. It's supposed to be the far reaches of the 2020s, which is hilarious, but you are doing it with this retro style, which is not dissimilar from something we had in Fantastic Four. That was much more in that 60s futurism, where this is the idea that we made it to space within the technology that we had of the 80s, and continuing that moving forward with the exploration of synthetic beings. And all of the performances in the 6 episodes that I did see are incredible. Sydney Chandler, who is in fact Kyle Chandler's daughter, manages to walk this tightrope of not playing a child with it feeling as if there is no maturity there whatsoever, but the bewilderment at everything happening around her and coming into her own as the insanity is unveiled in front of her. Timothy Olyphant is amazing at being somebody who you are supposed to sympathize with because he is the adult amongst the children. And those performances of being a synthetic or a cyborg and only barely allowing any vague amount of humanity to be present because of what's supposed to be behind the eyes of that machine. The humanity is gone. We are now functioning as machines who happen to have some consciousness. And everything I loved about Fargo and Legion is here from Noah Hawley. He's worked on every single script that was produced for this show, and all of the complexity you would expect is here. And I'm really grateful for that, because one of the main issues with exploring these franchises that are so beloved within the science fiction realm, Predator seems to have really found its place with Prey, Predator Badlands, and Killer of Killers. Terminator more recently did with Terminator Zero. And Alien Earth, to me, is the best example of following expectations, but breaking them in having a unique setting. We know what to expect from this franchise. There's going to be a xenomorph, and people are going to be terrified. But what is the motivation behind the choices that these characters make? If you're not invested in their journey through these stories, they don't work. You don't care when those people die. And this show manages to make its extensive cast each compelling and interesting because they are all having their own internal struggles. Well, on the outside of it, the external struggle, of course, being xenomorphs are trying to kill everybody and face huggers are trying to impregnate you with xenomorph babies. So everything you love from the Alien franchise, I know I've said that 3 times already, but what I appreciate more than anything is when you are continuing these legacy franchises that people love so much. And obviously, Alien Romulus was quite a success. We know we are going to be getting more from Fede Alvarez in that realm, but capturing the feeling and making something feel as if it is premier and prestige television is not something that is done easily. Getting a show like this on Disney Plus and Hulu and FX, depending on how you choose to watch it, it scratches that itch where you have a realm and a pathway for maturity within the science fiction genre, and more than anything, managing to have something to say that doesn't feel derivative of the other installments is a testament to everybody involved. Having seen all 6 episodes, you absolutely should check it out, and I am going to be waited on bated breath until September 16th and September 23rd when I can watch this show. That's all I can say without ruining anything and giving any spoilers away. Let me know if you plan on watching this in the comments, and make sure you check out next week's episode of the podcast. As stated in my Naked Gun Bad Guys 2 review, the question of the week is, what is your favorite Lindsay Lohan film? You can comment below with your answer, or you can email the podcast, filmreelistspod@gmail.com. Next week's episode, of course, will be a review of Freakier Friday. Make sure you have notifications on your preferred podcast platform so that you don't miss these special bonus episodes. I'm really grateful for the opportunity to get to watch some of this stuff early and give you my impressions and let you know if I think it's worth checking out. My name is Kyle Naranya, and I will see you next time.